these. Great. We'll get all these on the web. Now, I have to say, we've done this in cooperation with EPA for well over 20 years, but we are not EPA and we don't represent EPA. And we're really a group of grantees and people who want to apply for EPA funding, or we're interested, or we're trying to decide whether we want to do this or not. So anything that's said here is really our opinions. So it's not EPA policy. We try to listen and find out what's going on and do some interpretation. And sometimes we're corrected by the EPA, and sometimes we can provide some insights that maybe being in Washington or one of the regions, you don't have a chance to get out and talk to people whose boots are on the ground. So why don't we go around, I'll go left to right. I know people's screens change, but why don't we introduce yourself and then just who you're with, and maybe even the location if you're in Little Rock or you're in Phoenix or wherever Nolan is. He's all over the place. Just to put a face to a name. And so let's start with Steve. And
Okay.
I'll just go now. Your screens are probably different, but I'll use my screen as a guide.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Stephen Fenton, and I'm working with HMTRI. Mike and I actually began this program back in like '94. So he and I have been involved. Mike's been involved continuously. I took a little hiatus and came back, but we've been involved in this for a long time. I'm actually located in Sarasota, Florida. So that's where I'm at. It's actually not too cold here today. We'll take it. So good to see everyone.
And I'm Mike Senyu. I'm the old dog in the room, and just been around. And I think what I try to do is be a facilitator, try to put people together and network and exchange ideas so that you may get nothing out of one of these sessions, or it might be something you didn't know before, or something new, or something pop into your head that might give you an idea or a leg up. So Janet,
I'm Janet Curley. I'm with Santa Fe Community College in Santa Fe, New Mexico, although I'm in Albuquerque. But I've been involved with brownfields, the legislative part of it, since 1992, and I've been a grantee since 2011, off and on.
Great. Nolan?
Nolan Curtis. I'm just around. I live in Aiken, South Carolina. I'm retired as a contractor to the U.S. Department of Energy. I've worked with Steve and Mike for probably about 20 years-ish in this and other capacities. And I'm have spoken on environmental justice and brownfields. And I talk too much, so I'll stop.
Nolan has been around and he's got some great stories. Sometime if he comes on early before we get started, he can tell you some great stories. Nolan has done everything, but from designing covers for rock groups to being a teacher to being a DOE spokesperson. So we like to have him around. Thanks, Nolan. And Abby, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Abby. I'm from Auberly, which is a nonprofit located outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. We're a second-time grantees, so we're halfway through our second grant with the EPA. Normally Jake joins my call, but he is in his hands-on portion of training today. So just me from Auberly today. Fantastic. And it's freezing cold here, Mike.
Oh. Well, I'm glad to see someone else. We're cold here in North Carolina too. So Phyllis, I know you're cold where you're at.
We are. Hi, I'm Phyllis Gross. I'm with the Full Employment Council. I'm located in Kansas City, Missouri, and I have been with the company for 8 years. And EPA has been around as long as I remember. I was a counselor previous to my position now, and I work in planning and compliance.
Great. And Bruce, a familiar name?
Hello, my name is Bruce Mendelson. It's my first time using Zoom. Just kidding. I'm from the great city of Worcester, Massachusetts, in the heart of Massachusetts. And we are a first-time EWDJT grantee recipient. And I am grappling with all of the related issues that pertaining to that receipt of that grant. I wrote the grant, and I'm the grant writer here, and our staffing is such that I'm also now the program manager. So that's kind of fun.
I'm sorry, Bruce, that that happened to you, but this is a grant that you write the grant and you get it, and I say, oh my gosh, now we got to do this. But we've got some great people who do an awful good job. They do a great job. Diana?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diana Napier with the Workplace. We're a workforce development board here in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and cold Connecticut today. And we have had other grants, but the EPA grant, we have had other EPA grants, but it's new to me. I've managed other grant programs, but not the EPA. So I'm still learning the ropes. And I see that my project manager is on. Hey, Bill.
Great.
Hello, it's
Great.
always good to see grantees in on these kinds of things.
Great. Thank you. We will not ask you to be a guest speaker today, so you're okay.
Thanks for that.
Starla?
Yes, my name is Starla Frazier. I'm with the City of Little Rock in Little Rock, Arkansas. I work in the Department of Community Programs as the Community Engagement Specialist.
Great.
Brownsville is fairly new, is very new to me.
Oh, good. Okay. Great. Michael?
Yeah, I'm Michael Prensrod. I'm with the Los Angeles Conservation Corps. I'm the grant writer. I've worked on the Brownfields grant for 6 years now. The Corps has had nearly continuous contracts under EPA since I think 2005. So we've had a little bit of experience with this.
Michael is one of our stars, as long as like Abby and Janet, and we can learn an awful lot from them. They're our stars and our mentors. So welcome, Michael. And Derisha?
Hello, I'm Derica Newton. I am the grants coordinator for the city of East Point, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And this is all relatively new to me. This is my first time, working with the Brownfield program.
Great. Is it Samantha? Do I have your name right? Samantha SM Fisher?
I think that's Shamika.
Shamika. I'm sorry. Shamika, are you there? She was earlier. Well,
Yeah,
she'll
I
Yeah,
think
make
she
some-
sent out in the chat that she had to get with the client real quick. She'll be back shortly.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, good. Michael?
Greetings all. Excuse me, Michael Long. I'm with the Full Employment Council in Kansas City, Missouri. Phyllis Gross is my esteemed colleague. And we've been doing with the EPA grant for a few years now. So yeah, thank you all.
Great. And he's going to be working with Phyllis in 2 weeks, talking about their program. And Bill?
Hi there, I'm Bill Revere. I'm Region 1. I'm up here in Boston, so it's slightly colder than some of you out there. Unfortunately, we have a blizzard coming this weekend, so pray for us. But yeah, I'd just like to sit on the news, try to see what all the grantees are up to and what everyone's thinking of.
Great. Great. Thanks, Bill. Well, let's get into today's discussion, and we're going to talk a little bit about what EPA is doing and try to sort out this whole business about Justice 40, about the infrastructure bill, about EJ and EPA, about NIHS. What's everybody all of a sudden, after the second day of the president's after his inauguration, the executive order, and it's led to a groundswell of EJ. And those of you who have been around, we struggled for many years trying to promote EJ. This is the boots on the ground group. These are people who have, and I'm looking at on my screen, that have worked with the people in the communities, not in the Beltway. These are people who are day-to-day experts at what they do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what EPA wants to do in terms of a listening session that's going to be occurring just before our next PLC session on the 9th. And we probably won't have time, but and we may do that the next the following, about developing awareness in your community. When we first get started, part of getting this grant is developing a demand in your community and people don't even know what environmental technicians do. It's very mysterious to many. They're not sure about it. So there's not a lot of awareness, so that the people in, whether it's in the county or city hall or community groups, it's kind of a strange, mysterious thing to them. So they're not really, it's not on their radar about, hey, let's develop a job training program. Let's go after this grant that EPA has. So we at some point want to talk about developing that community awareness, and it'll swell from the bottom up. If the community sees that this is something that is really a positive thing, not only for the community, and we're talking about the distressed community, the EJ community, it's a good thing for the mayor, it's a good thing for the Department of Environmental Restoration or DENR, it's a good thing for the state. So that bubbles up, and then pretty soon you've got someone who comes forward who is a nonprofit or might be a county government that decides let's go for this grant, and then they apply for the grant, and we're looking forward to some big things. So with that in mind, the format of this, we always try to brief everyone of what happened in the last 2 weeks, what's going on in Washington, what events should we be looking out for. And Steve, do you want to talk to us about what's happening in Washington and what we're doing at HMTRI?
Sure. Okay, hello again, everyone, and just a few updates for you. The Brownfields it's 2022, is set for August 16th through the 19th in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I mentioned that last PLC. And I like to keep going back and checking their website to see what's new. And there are a few new things there. And I'm going to put the link to the website in the chat box, just so you have it. And you'll notice the link says 2021. When you go to that's still a good link. You go to the site and it will say Brownfields 2022. One of the things I noticed going on the site today was the travel scholarships are now open. They weren't open last time I checked. So you might want to just kind of keep that link if you're interested in possibly attending, and just check it periodically. And if anything changes, we'll mention it on the PLC calls too. Also, Mike alluded to a workforce development listening session, and that's going to be happening Wednesday, February 9th from 12:30 to 2. And you might make a note, that's Eastern time. That will be right before the next PLC. And I'm going to drop that link also in the PLC. And by the way, all these links that I'm dropping in here will also be on the notes. So if you don't catch them, they'll be coming around in the notes. And this is basically, this is an EPA listening session.
If for some reason you're not getting notes, just msenyu@gmail.com. Just drop me a note. Certainly if you have any comments about anything in the PLC, or comments or questions or something you want to get across, just return notes with whatever you want to say. But just I have a Gmail and an AOL account, and those seem to be the fastest way of getting on our PLC list. And once you're on the list, you'll get 2 invites for our next session, which are every 2 weeks anyway, at same time, same place, same login. But you'll get the Friday notes that we send out at noon, and they have all of these links and then the additional information that we might provide.
Okay, I dropped the link in the box. And by the way, that workforce development listening session that I mentioned, that would be one thing that you might want to try to attend because EPA is looking for ideas on expanding workforce development in underserved communities. And I think they're gathering, information and input. So this would be something that we would highly recommend you try to attend. Again, that's February 9th from 12:30 to 2. And if we receive more information, we will be forwarding that on probably as soon as we get it, since that's 2 weeks away. Also from HMTRI, we are still planning on a mid-year virtual networking workshop, similar to the brainstorming workshop that we had back in November. This one tentatively scheduled for May 4th. We're still trying to clear the dates, make sure that works. But we're going to be looking to host that on May 4th. It'll be a virtual workshop, similar in structure and format to the workshop we did on November 17th, only we'll have some different topics. And then we also have a tentative date for the annual all grantee meeting. We're planning on it being October 11th through the 14th, and actually the 2 days, 12th and 13th, will be full day sessions. That would be in person, tentatively in Alexandria, Virginia on those dates. So you might want to plug those dates in your calendar. If for some reason it can't go in person, we would probably use those dates to go virtual. So again, you might want to pencil those dates in. Then we also have, I believe I mentioned last time about an opportunity for training. The Partnership for Environmental Technology Education, also known as PEAT, one of our partners that we've worked with for a long time. They're going to be holding an OSHA health and safety instructor train the trainer program in Bettendorf, Iowa, May 9th through the 20th. And it's a fantastic opportunity. It's really more for trainers than administrators. They cover a lot of different topics. They cover the 40-hour waste site worker health and safety, the 24-hour emergency response, a DOT hazmat awareness, confined space, hazard awareness and communication, and disaster site awareness. They provide this training to trainers, and then they become part of this network. It's a really great opportunity to network with other trainers doing a lot of what your trainers are doing, and also to get a hold of a lot of curriculum. And also, because you're not now in that network, you hear of other things going on. Like, for example, they're frequently offering a lot of other training, OSHA certification training, and et cetera. So they're doing a lot of stuff that's quite helpful. They are taking applications through February 28th, so you still have time. And I'm going to also put that link in the chat box so you can at least look at it if you're interested, but it's a fantastic group. Some of our EPA grantees have already gone through this training and are members and have been members for quite a while. And every time I talk to them about it and how they've, how it's worked for them, and they say it's been fantastic and a great opportunity. And again, there's the link to the nationalpeat.org 2022. They call it the Great Environmental Safety Training, Health and Safety Training Institute. So again, that's in Davenport, Iowa. It's going to be face-to-face. That's the plan now. So they also, the other thing that's really unique about that, not only it doesn't cost you anything, they also offer like travel scholarships. I mean, they can help virtually pay your way there. So it's like you're getting fantastic training, you're getting a great network, and you're also able to, defer much, if not all of the cost of going to the training. So it's really a great opportunity. One other piece of information we wanted to pass along is Mike and I are on a number of listservs and get a lot of emails from time to time. I belong to an organization called the NIEHS Evaluation Community of Practice. And normally they have meetings where they talk just about, evaluation methods and lessons learned and stuff. They're having a meeting coming up where they said, please pass this out to anybody. Anybody's that's interested in coming is welcome. They're going to be talking not only about evaluation and how you evaluate programs, they're also going to be talking about Justice 40, stakeholder engagement, as Mike mentioned earlier. Other organizations are also talking about. So this might be an opportunity for you to maybe gather some additional information. Also, one of the things Mike and I noticed is one of the, they're having three grantee presentations. And one of the presentations is from OAI, who's also an EPA Brownfield grantee. So they're going to be doing an evaluation, or excuse me, a presentation at that workshop. That is going to be February 10th from 2 to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. So if you're interested, I will drop that link in the chat box. And again, that will also, these links will be included in the notes that Mike sends out later. So there you go. So that's Nolan.
Yeah, if I could just chime in. Having been an evaluator for grants for different agencies, I think it's critical if you can listen in or participate anytime there's an evaluator session. It will save you a lot of time and pain if you can understand what it is the evaluators look for and what it is they don't appreciate. And so I know that when we get in piles of applications for grants, I'm not speaking for the EPA grants, but in the past, one of the first culling methods are people who just didn't follow the instructions, either in length or format or something else. We just set those aside because we don't have the time. If you're not gonna do what we ask you to do, initially, why would we think you would do it later? But if you can get any insight into what it is they look for, and like I said, what it is that just kind of, makes them look the other way, that can be really valuable to you in your current or future grants.
The thing about it,
I would agree with the EPA grant as well. Any evaluator or outreach session, that the PO is always on it, and they tell you what we want and what we don't want. And you can usually tell the people that go to those sessions more have higher scores in review.
right. Evaluation is often pushed aside. We often, like NIHS, they require outside evaluators. The EPA has been less formal on that. They don't talk that much about evaluation. We evaluate everything we do. And you might see some surveys that we send out. They're helpful on many levels. They help you when you do the next event. For example, when we did a November 17th event, we did a formal evaluation and a white paper, and that allowed us to say, okay, let's take the good points of that and do it on May 4th. Let's take the bad points and try to improve on those. So they're really a positive thing on how you do that. And evaluations range from very formal to informal. But I think, as Bill said, when you're writing a grant, that's going to be in there one way or another. It might be very subtle, but it is there. So we'll be talking in future PLCs about evaluation and evaluation techniques and what you might want to do and how you may want to incorporate that in the job training program, even though it's not a formal requirement at this point, maybe at some point. So we'll go from there. We had a couple.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Mike, I
Anything
think that's all I have. If there's any other questions, please feel free to let us know.
And these will all be in the notes that you'll get on Friday. We have a couple other people that joined And we early on wanted to just, and we may do this a few times, introduce everyone and where they're from. So we've got 3 people who joined. Ken, can you unmute and turn your video on so we can see you? And tell us where you're from. And
yeah, okay. Hi, Mike and also Steve. How you guys doing? Yeah, my name is Ken Alexander. Sorry, I hit the button. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, Recycle Force, social enterprise. We're a job training, job placement organization, and we're also one of the recipients of I think it's the 2019 EPA grant.
great. And Yvette, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm having difficulty with my camera. But what was the question?
Well, we just thought we'd introduce everyone and let us know who you are and where you're from.
Okay. Well, my name is Yvette Solis. I currently work at El Centro Inc. in Kansas City, Kansas. And I am the employment specialist. And I also help with other stuff here in our department with emergency assistance, small businesses, and home buying as well.
Great. And I believe I've been corresponding with Victor, and I believe Victor and Yvette are going to be doing a presentation later in February. So we'll hear about their program and what they're doing in Kansas. And we've got Morgan. Morgan?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Linda Morgan. I'm with EPA Region 5 Brownfields Job Training Coordinator.
I thought that was you.
Hi, Linda. I did too.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Linda.
Hey, Ken. Good to see you.
All right, you too. Well, good to hear you.
Okay, yeah, sorry, but Mike threw me off with the turn on the camera thing. Can't do that right now.
That's okay. We're just trying to put faces to names, so when we eventually do get together, we'll know who we are and what programs we're talking about. Well, the two of you probably know more about this than I do, but we're going to talk about some things that are coming up, and you're going to hear these names thrown out. We've talked about it, and they can get a little confusing and overwhelming. And in my opinion, a lot of this is happening in the Beltway and in Washington and the regional offices, but not necessarily boots on the ground yet. But that's the key. We want to anticipate what's going on because we see a lot of activities in Washington and in the regional offices about getting more organizations to apply for the job training program. Let's try to develop more interest. Now, I know for a lot of you that's competition because there's only a certain number of applicants that are accepted, but we're anticipating because of all this interest and because of what's happening that there will be more grants. And if you don't have the interest in the grassroots, in the boots on the ground, if you don't have the applicants, it's pretty hard to justify putting more of your budget into job training. So we want to develop a lot of interest. We want to have a lot of applicants applying this summer for the FY23 grant award. But let's talk about why there is this interest all of a sudden. Everything's EJ, everything's Justice 40. The one thing we can say that's a done deal is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that was passed earlier this year. That is a done deal. And that money is in the bank, essentially. It still has to go through the budgeting process, but there's some hints of things in that infrastructure bill that goes to EPA that is pretty significant. Now, some of you may have seen the headlines about lead pipes. A lot of it is about lead pipes in Michigan and what's happening not only in Michigan, but all over the country. They allocated about 2.9 billion in just 22 to replace those lead pipes, and we want lead-free water. And we all know what happened. And that woke everyone to realize we got 100-year-old pipes, we got lead pipes. Now, let's think about how does this relate to job training grantees? That's what we may want to consider, is how those things and this money that's going to be spent in the billions and hundreds of millions may apply to our grant programs as we think about our direction of where we're going. But you know, that lead pipe 2.9 billion also includes chemicals such as PFASs, which is your Teflon pans. Here in North Carolina, outside of Wilmington, we've got a whole water supply that's loaded with PFASs. And it turns out that these are carcinogenic chemicals. And so the sleeper in this whole lead pipe issue is this whole chemical issue of how do we control tests for, how do we look for PFAS? And of course, chemical, this is fair game in the EPA job training application. Now, we're not sure how that application is going to look and if they're going to expand it or add additional areas because of what's been happening. But we know there's certain things that are important to EPA and are fundable in the program. Another one that is a sleeper in this whole lead issue with the infrastructure bill is lead paint. We've got a serious, we thought we were over with lead paint a dozen years ago, but we've got 24 million homes with lead paint, and they estimate about 4 million of those have kids in those homes. And of course, when lead paint peels and kids pick up the paint, they find elevated levels of lead in their system, which retards their cognitive abilities. And it is a serious issue. Now, this money is going through HUD, but it still impacts our job training program because there's going to be about 13.2 million of lead paint hazardous reduction program. It's an acronym, LBPHR, out of HUD. And some of you in older cities particularly may want to revisit or look at that lead curriculum. Many of our grantees are training lead and asbestos. Right now, under the legislation that has already been passed, lead is back on the burner. So in those urban areas, you may want to take a look at that. And when you start doing your needs assessment, start seeking out and maybe talking and get to know the people in HUD and seeing what they're doing, who the contractors are, and what the demand is for workers with lead certifications. Another big part of that infrastructure bill, and I'm not talking about things in the future, this is hard money, it's a Superfund cleanup. We've got Superfund, 49 Superfund sites that they state in the bill. There's about $1 billion that's going to be spent right away, with a total of about 21 billion total. Now, when they say Superfund, there's also plus brownfields in that bill. So they're talking about Superfund and brownfields cleanup. And of course, again, we're talking about opportunities for your graduates, and this will be coming up again. So when these grants start going out, the grants, particularly the cleanup grants, we've indicated how important it is for you to get to know the cleanup people, and actually, even more important, who the cleanup people that you're working with, who the contractors are, because those contractors are going to be hiring your graduates. So we want to keep an eye on the whole Superfund pot of money that's going to be going through. There's money on clean energy, which is a little more elusive. In the EPA grant, you're allowed to do some brownfields cleanup in areas that may become solar farms or wind farms, but there's going to be a lot of money going into the clean energy area. And then the last thing that's in that infrastructure bill, people don't really talk about these minor things, but they're important to us and our graduates. The Department of Interior is, they've got a surface mine reclamation program, and that's pretty much being pumped up again. This is legacy pollution in coal fields. Now, we used to have a grantee, and I hope they apply this year, and it's called Coalfields Redevelopment. They were into lined reclamation, but some of you are also. when you start talking about some of the flyover states, Region 8, we start talking about abandoned mines and surface mines that are going to be resurrected again. And let's get back and look at this legacy pollution around these coal fields and what we can do. So what I'm talking about with regard to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is already on the books, there's going to be a demand for people. And what we want to do is, as this demand increases and RFAs start going out to these agencies, we want to make sure that we're in touch with them so that they can hire our graduates. That's where this is all coming from. So that's one issue. The second one is everybody's hearing about Justice 40. It's a hot issue, as everybody is talking about it. And that came out of the executive order that President Biden, right after he was elected, said 40% of our climate change and clean energy money is going to go to underserved communities, distressed and underserved communities. Come on, this is where we've been working. We've been working there for 25 years. So we're boots on the ground of this. Now, a lot of this money is, it's not so much that there's grants being given out in this, it's more about a rethinking government agencies and how they're going to budget their money. EPA, for example, is throwing $3 million into the jobs training program. Will this affect? We'll find out. Will this increase what may be going to some of the job training programs? Now, most of this, a lot of this money is going towards a lot of this emphasis. It crosses many agencies. EPA, HUD, Interior, Health and Human Services is playing a big role in Justice 40. You're going to hear lots of Zooms about Justice 40. And in fact, the Office of Environmental Justice in EPA has got listening sessions going on. They were starting at every 2 weeks. They've moved to once a month, and the next one's going to be on the 22nd. So when you look at the notes and you look up the upcoming virtual workshops, you're going to see the EJ calls and they're talking about, they're called community engagement calls, and they happen once a month. And they talk about what the different agencies are doing in EPA to address Justice 40 and environmental justice. Now, I have to hand it to EPA. They have always, and probably one of the first to be involved in environmental justice and the formation of the NEJAC committee, the National Environmental Justice Committee. But they're really now ramping up. We've been attending all of the meetings that the EPA office has put on. Right now, when you attend these, you get the feeling that they're building capability within the agencies and within organizations. There's not like there's money coming down and grants being awarded. We're not there yet. So while you hear about all this stuff, it's developing tools. EPA is, for example, and they've done this for maybe that's 5 or 6 years old, the EJ screening tool, which is becoming very important within EPA. The last RFA, for example, suggested that towns go to EJ Screen to zero in on the communities that they're going to be working in to determine their target communities. The problem with Justice 40 was when the president suggested that 40% of the money for climate change and renewable energy go to distressed areas. The first question is, what is a distressed area? And there is a White House organization, an office that is supposed to be charged with doing that. And they've been struggling with that. What is a distressed community? Interesting enough, EPA has been way ahead of the game coming in the back door. They've basically mapped the entire United States and done all sorts of demographics and pollution and socioeconomic statistics on that. And when you have a chance, and we'll be doing a PLC about EJ Screen, it's becoming a very important tool. It's not the one that's being used in EJ 40, they're going to come up with some sort of tool that will decide what is a distressed community, what qualifies for distress, almost like a opportunity zone. So that's going to be coming down the pike. That's what Washington's kind of working on. They're still doing this infrastructure, and we're going to be seeing it probably this summer or later in the year when these grants start coming out and when the RFAs start coming out. But I thought it was pretty important to bring this up now, so you know what these are, you know what the infrastructure bill is. That is solid. Now Build Back Better is another thing you're going to hear, but we don't know where that's going to go. You've heard about Justice 40. Not necessarily money attached to it right now, but it's more of a way the agency's thinking about EJ. Well, we're all hoping that the agency is going to be thinking a lot about job training. And this is going to tie into this listening session that I hope when you get these notices, you all think about that. We may want to spend just a minute or two or discuss what can we do. This is our opportunity to provide input to EPA on what we feel would be best for the job training program. Is it more money? Is it more time? Is it more wraparound services? Can we expand the curriculum? Some of these things they may not be able to do legislatively because the money is flowing through a smokestack that might be, it may not allow you to do air training or whatever. But we could ask these questions at this meeting. What, if the question is asked of us, is what can we do to make the job training program better? This is our opportunity to tell EPA directly what we think. And I don't think we should be hamstrung by saying, well, we need more money, or we need to fund wraparound services because we can't now, or we need to be able to expand our curriculum, or we need something else. Maybe longer term grants. Maybe we need to move to 5-year grants instead of 3-year grants. So give yourself some time to think about that between now and 2 weeks from now. And then even if we have time during our PLC session, we might do a post wrap up on that I think if we move forward and make a clear voice to EPA of what we want, because one thing I have to say, and they're doing a lot of listening sessions, they are listening, and they've got a lot of resources coming down the pike, and they want to talk to people who are out in the field, who are you, of well, what do you want? What should we be doing rather than from top down? Let's do that. So any thoughts? Yes.
On February the 8th, at 6 o'clock, I'm having a meeting with all of the environment professionals, safety professionals and hazardous material managers, specialists in the state of New Mexico at Santa Fe Community College, either in person or they're Zooming in to discuss environmental education in the state of New Mexico, just so you know.
Fantastic. Now, how is it accepted in New Mexico? Is it a positive? Do you think there's a big emphasis now on
No, we have 17 curriculums in our colleges and our universities, and we have over the past 12 years, we've had 11 graduates.
Wow.
Not counting my program, okay?
Yeah.
I mean degree for credit training. And so
well, this gets back to awareness, doesn't it? I mean, nobody knows we exist.
And it's, as a matter of fact, I found when I sat down with the secretary of our workforce development, Department of Labor, they weren't even collecting the statistics on the environmental business because the environmental work falls under office work, administrative work in the SOC, the Department of Labor standard occupational codes. And so there's a big mess up on how they're actually collecting data. So
there always has been. When I joined the public health service in 1970, and I was a sanitarian, I thought, what the heck is a sanitarian? And that was the only job descriptor they could put me under for EPA. It's
So
incredible.
like Nolan, since he's got a lot of DOE background, I mean, no, we've got this $10 billion legacy cleanup project going on here in northern New Mexico at Los Alamos. You're familiar with that, Nolan?
Yes.
So,
And so what happens, and I don't speak for DOE, I was a contractor person, but what happens in that space again is what you were talking about. How are things classified or even rated? We were training and retraining for environmental technicians and demolition and all that kind of stuff, but none of those classifications were in any of the DOE job codes. And so if you ask, do DOE sites hire environmental technicians, the answer was no. And yet we were spending millions of dollars on these programs to train and retrain people to do it. Likewise.
Yeah, crane operators. I getting phone calls for crane operators at DOE sites, and I can't find anywhere that they'll give me money to get training for those folks.
Right, and so, you know, again, no matter what code you use, the new SOCs, the old ones, they just don't match up. And then the other one is this notion of degrees and certification. So we were spending a lot of money within the department was spending a lot of money to train technicians at two-year colleges, which was great, but they don't hire them. And so, you know, there is this, again, a resource I mentioned before through ATEEC that Steve and Mike can link you to, which really, they've gone through a number of these national conversations on how we define environmental jobs and all the different titles and sort of skill sets that go with them. And that can be critical in linking up with how you're even describing your job outcomes or occupational outcomes in your grants or your programs or services.
Right.
Buddy, I know you have something to add. Hey, I saw you on the call yesterday. Good comments. Do you want to say something?
No, I was agreeing with him.
Okay.
That's why I was putting my hand up.
Don't do that, buddy. You'll lose all your credibility.
Buddy is with New Bedford, by the way. You didn't introduce yourself. Well, you know, we did job analysis a long time ago. This was off-air programs, and we found that a lot of the engineering positions, you didn't need an engineering degree to do them. You could certainly do that with a technician, but exactly right. The job description is written for an engineer, and sometimes an engineer with experience that could learn the job in about 3 months. So we do have some real issues with that.
And that's one of the reasons why I've been going to like some of the temp agencies and stuff like that, saying, look, you know, I got technicians here, they need experience if you got jobs. And I've even been making presentations to the New Mexico Human Resources Society kind of thing, and asking them, why are you guys putting this kind of stuff? You want an entry-level person, and you say with 5 years of experience. I'm like, excuse me, a person with 5 years of experience is not entry level. And yet that's what they're putting in their job descriptions. So
good point. Good point.
Yeah, it is the HR gateway, as we call it. And there's just a couple of boxes that are, they're probably more from legacy than any kind of function, but they do keep a lot of people out or narrow the gates.
Right.
But a lot of the partnership is what you're doing is working with the HR people or organizations themselves. And not to put this in a bad way, but a lot of the federal sites like DOE rely on major contractors who then rely on what we sort of refer to as body shop subcontractors to fill a lot of positions. And working with them and their HR departments and letting them understand the quality of your training and experience can sometimes lower that mountain just a little bit, you know, that you have to climb to get people, at least in the queue, to be looked at.
Well, I know I was going through, you know, the safety professionals and the environmental professionals, and then I found this gateway. And so for the past 4 years, I've been making a presentation at least once a year to the HR people about new regulations. And, oh, by the way, you guys are screwing us to the wall with our hiring, with your hiring words.
Well, another resource is also cities, counties, and ports. They hire a lot of people in these loose, what I call environmental positions, but they never call them that. You know, they'll be like a yard waste coordinator or, you know, something like that. Like pet feces pickup or something, but
Oh, yeah.
it's just, but again, these are areas where you might want to look at, are there opportunities for employment? Or can they give you very specific descriptors for training that if people had this, then they could get into their pipelines?
Oh, they don't even, they have these parsing programs because everything has to be online. And I found the secret is they have parsing things when you load your resume in. If you don't meet these special criteria, your resume doesn't even go to the next level. So I've been teaching my folks how to make sure every single keyword is in their resume so they can at least get through the automatic computer parsing that's going on.
Yeah, you have to parrot the ask. So whatever they're announcing as the position, you use that as the template for what you describe in terms of your skills and experience. Right.
As a matter of fact, I had to call one of my guys this morning. He's been looking for a job. He didn't realize you're supposed to start Monday at the city of Santa Fe. And he didn't even know because the HR people forgot to call him and he didn't understand why he was having to bring in all this paperwork. And I was like, oh, because you got the job.
This is great work. This is what makes job training fantastic. So,
yeah.
Any other comments before we adjourn? And we're going to, in 2 weeks from now, if you go to the listening session, that's going to end at 2 and then ours is going to start. So ours is a little different site. So you can just bug out of theirs and come on over to ours. And we'll continue with Full Employment Council talking a little bit about their program. We might continue some of the conversation of maybe we could talk about that listening session a little bit.
Yeah, I have one more plug, Mike, if I may. And
yes,
again,
sir.
A lot of the programs are already onto this, but one of my big banners or talk bubbles is partners, not patrons. And so the opportunities that are arising across the board from some of these new programs, you might really want to look at your competition and cooperation in your local area and realize that you might not partner with them on everything. You might compete on other things, but you can certainly partner on some things, and that you and your programs have a lot of shareable assets. And so you have targeted audiences that you can or have already reached. You have training systems and experts. And so they don't have to grow a new brain. They can partner with you and have this new capability in a joint program. You have knowledge and information that they don't have because it's outside of their areas of expertise. And you also ultimately have the same product goal that they do, which is workforce readiness, and getting people back into the job cycle. So, a lot of the people or a lot of organizations, you don't think about law enforcement, city government, other, nonprofits. These are sometimes good opportunities to create these partnerships, and, dwarfs start small. So you want to, just get a little program where you're working together, and then you can grow them into giants instead of trying to hit the home run right off the bat. But mostly it's the relationship building. So whether the first or second attempts land or don't land, you want to build these partnership relationships with these organizations, because believe me, they will in time hit a need and recognize you as a resource, and vice versa. So
you got it. You got it.
Hey, Mike, this is Linda. I just wanted to echo what you said about the listening sessions. So we just want to ask, well, I just want to ask if you all can help us with the outreach for the listening session, spread the word, bring your partners on board, talk to your partners ahead of time. This is a rare opportunity, I guess I should say, for grantees and potential grantees to have their say. When we had a ton of money like this before, not as much, but when we had a lot of money like this before, was back in 2009 with the ERA grants, and there were no listening sessions. It was just another competition put out right after the regular appropriations that we had for FY29, for FY09. We came right back less than a month and had competition for the ERA grants. But please help us spread the word, talk to your partners, just come on board and give us your opinions, your thoughts. And I know when we have our annual job training meetings, people always say, we need more money, we need more funding. We have more funding now. But we also want to expand the program and help the program grow. So it's more than just money, but so we want your opinions on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. You know, that's a good point. This is our big chance to be in front of the people who are making funding decisions and RFA decisions. These are people who are going to be writing the RFA. So, you know, if you think the RFA is too hard to write or it's too difficult, bring it up. You know, this is a blue sky thing, and we'll get the message across. Or it may be, again, as we said, maybe wraparound services. So between now and then, think about it, jot some things down. And EPA is very much interested in us trying to find out as many people as we can get to come to this. So, you know, all the regions have their own lists, and those people will be there. And our people will be there, all the PLC people. So hopefully we're going to get some great input to EPA. And we'll curse them later if they don't listen to us. But right now we have our big chance. And I have to give kudos to EPA that they're doing this. It's really great on their part. Anything else?
Mike, let's just reiterate that date again. The date of that listening session is Wednesday, February 9th from 12:30 to 2 Eastern time.
We're going to send out a special notice just for that one. And we'll have a Monday and Wednesday, we'll have the notice on the PLC that's at 2 o'clock. And we'll send one out probably the previous Friday about the listening session that EPA is going to have. So we could have maximum participation. Again, it says a lot for job training if we can get a good turnout. So great. Well, let's go shovel snow.
I'm not shoveling snow.
Buddy is. Yeah, I know where he lives. He's got lots of snow up there.
We got a lot coming.
There you go. There you go.
You know, about 12 inches or so. So
Oh man,
I love it.
I'm glad you do.
Happy New Year to everybody. Sorry I missed the last one, but Happy New Year.
There you go.
Bye.
See y'all in 2
Bye.
weeks.
All right.
Hey, Kim,
Thank
I'd like
you.
to get in touch with you sometime.
Sure
Yes,
will.
sir.
Okay, all right, Nolan, this,
Yeah.
you know, my email should be attached to the PLC.
Yeah, and likewise. So,
Okay,
all right.
all right, thanks, Nolan.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Did Nolan just drop out?
Yep.
I think he did.
We'll get him Buddy's email.
All right, I am going to stop the recording.
Okay.